Hello and thanks for stopping by. Today's game is Saw for the PlayStation 3, and I'm playing this one on a good old-fashioned PlayStation 3. This game was developed by Zombie Studios and published by Konami back in 2009. And this was one of those games I picked up a few years back as the PlayStation 3 game rack started to get smaller at GameStop. I would go into any local GameStop I could find and just see what they had available. This one actually took a little searching for me to find, and I'm glad I can finally pop it in the system and give it a try, because this one is actually really fun and a little frightening at times. This is great Halloween material. You start the game and are offered two levels of difficulty, normal and insane. I always start with normal, but I'm always glad when they have a version that kicks it up a notch. If it becomes a game that you really love, having the added difficulty, I think it really helps the replay value. Saw is a survival horror game, and it's based on the horror movie franchise Saw. The long and short of it is this: the Jigsaw Killer kidnaps people that have some sort of a personality flaw or obsession, and he puts them in some sort of a deadly trap. Your goal is to just survive and get through all the traps. They had a bunch of movies for this franchise, and each one was a little more complex than the film that came before it. It's actually a really unique premise for a horror movie, and I think it really works. Sometimes it's confusing, but it definitely works for me. Here, you have to solve puzzles to survive, rescue other people along the way, and you're also trying to find the character Jigsaw himself and stop the whole mess. This game is about puzzles. There are deadly traps and puzzles all over. You're going to see the after effects of some traps that were set off sometime before you got there. Usually that means it's a dead person. You'll also see traps actually trigger on some people live. And you will also get to see traps as they sort of unfold on these little televisions that are everywhere. Ultimately in this game, things can get gross. This is certainly a more mature game, and it isn't going to be for everybody. There is plenty of blood and gore in this one. It's also a dark game with limited light sources. Some places, of course, are going to be darker than others, and usually have some sort of a light source. You start out with a lighter, but you can get a flashlight or maybe a camera. Truthfully, though, when you get the flashlight, going further and getting something else seems like a total waste. Like, you can pick up another lighter along the way, but why would you? The flashlight is perfect. Why would you pick up the camera? The camera is actually, it's unique when you pick it up and you flash it a couple times, but it's a waste. The flashlight's probably the best way to go. The darkness aspect definitely helps this game, and it makes the settings look even better. It just looks great. When you start the game, you are thrust into the chaos immediately. You've been kidnapped by Jigsaw, and there's a device strapped to your head, and it's going to split your head open and kill you if you don't get it off in time. It's time to get moving here. This is a simple puzzle solve, and it's really just a series of button presses, and they display for you on screen. It's not going to be this easy the whole game, I promise. It's a third-person adventure, and the third-person aspect works really well here. Also, I have to point out this is the first time that I can recall a game that requires me to use the 6-axis motion control in the controller. I honestly forgot the controller had this capability. It's definitely a novelty, for sure, and you only get to use it a little bit here in one particular instance, but when you're walking across these narrow bridges, you move your controller sort of left to right, sort of balance yourself on the beam. It's interesting. It's pretty clever. In this game, you're trapped in what appears to be an abandoned medical facility, and it's somewhere, and it's completely filthy. It's rusty, it's dark, and it has some great ambient noises. Drips, echoes, screams, stuff like that. You're going to run across tons of discarded medical equipment and junk, as well as a ton of old televisions that are usually piping in some sort of a picture from another puzzle room. Great way to recycle old hardware, Jigsaw. Reduce, reuse, recycle. I'm on board. You find that there are going to be other people in this game as well that have been kidnapped. Some people are tied to your personal story, and others are just there as sort of fodder. Sometimes you're going to see these random characters get killed by a puzzle attempt, which is hilarious, or they might be fighting amongst each other. A few you might rescue, and honestly, most of them are just going to come after you to kill you. You have a health bar in this game, so it's not like this is just a game of puzzle solving. And like the movie Die Hard, you also have a shoe problem. You have no shoes. This is a filthy place, and sometimes there is glass on the floor. So look down and be careful, because glass is going to hurt you. Puzzles can certainly hurt or kill you as well, but more common, other people in this game can and usually want to hurt you. This is a desperate situation, and clearly not everybody is taking it well. There is hand-to-hand combat in this one, And honestly, that's the first place I stumbled in the game, because it's not quick, intuitive, and it's not fluid. You're going to be smashing some buttons, and this isn't a button masher. And your timing is going to be all off, and you're probably going to get killed. After a while, I managed to figure out at least a few things. If you have a weapon, and you hold L2 and press circle when they attack you, you can block. And then it goes into this sort of button press minigame where you can counter. It was confusing at first, but once you do it once or twice, it works. This isn't a fighting game. This sort of weapon counter action here, this probably works a little better than the fists that I was relying on at first. This is the one part of the game that's maybe a little clunky, but it isn't a primary focus of the game, so it's doable. There's actually a lot more interaction with the game than I was expecting. You have to worry about a light source. You have to worry about glass on the floor. You have to worry about these random shotgun traps as you pass through doors and hallways. You have to worry about picking locks, searching bodies for items. Honestly, I was just expecting this game to be a bunch of traps spliced together, and you just went room to room. That's all I was expecting. This is way bigger than that. You also have a map that helps guide you through the game. There are tons of locked doors in this one. Having a map is great. No fast travel, but you have a map to let you know where you need to go. There's also a story in this game. Honestly, I kind of figured you'd be playing a generic guy of some sort. Instead, you play a detective. He's obsessed. You encounter various aspects of your detective life as you progress through this game. And an interesting twist to this game too, there's a key that has been sewn into your body. The key is no good to you, but apparently it is the method of escape for all the other prisoners in this place. And that's why you have to worry about fighting them off. Actually, the number of other people that are running around in this building, it's a little surprising. There are certainly more people in this game than in the movies. You're going to have to avoid them, defeat them outright, or maybe set up traps to eliminate them along the way. It's important to know this is not a team effort. You are a target. Your survival will mean that other people will not survive, and you might have to be the person to make that happen. In this game, you're going to open doors, close doors, unlock doors, pick locks, bolt some doors closed, smash some walls, and of course, some doors are going to automatically close behind you. Those are usually the worst, because it probably means you've just been forced into some sort of a new puzzle. Every time that happens, my mind jumps and I start racing around looking for a timer to make sure I know exactly how much time I have to panic. It does run into some sort of survival horror tropes that I don't necessarily agree with. Specifically, limiting the number of items you can hold. In this game, you can only hold, 4 nails? Nails? Seriously? There should be no limit on some of these items, and I think you should be able to stockpile them, I really do. If it's important that you don't have this many nails, then either you have to give me fewer nails, make them destructible somehow in the game, or find a way to manage that volume in a different way. Just not letting me hold something that logically you should be able to hold, I should be able to hold 50 nails. It just seems strange, especially for these really small items. I get it if it's like I was carrying a suitcase. I can't carry 10 suitcases, but a nail? There are also unexpected deaths in this game. Don't just run through a door if you can avoid it. There are tripwires connected to shotgun shells, and there are plenty of untimely demises here. It's nice when you set these up for other people to stumble on, but it's not nice for you to step through. Multiple times. You're getting good at a certain level, you're feeling pretty great about it, you walk through a new door, and bam, you're gone. It catches me off guard every time. Somewhere before the halfway part of the game, you get into this sort of courtyard of sorts, and it's at this moment when the game almost started to feel like Resident Evil for me. I don't know what it was. It felt sort of, the map kind of felt like it was moving in that direction. It's not as big as a Resident Evil map, but the fact that you can go downstairs, upstairs, you can go to different levels of the building, it really started to feel like that to me. I've also been playing a bunch of PC games lately, and the puzzles that they put me in front of, they felt really, really difficult and just obtuse. Here, I can't say they're easy, but they're definitely understandable. They're challenging, and it works. After a bit, you might have a simple puzzle. You'll have gears, for instance. You'll have to connect one gear to another. One gear is moving, one gear is not moving. You have to make both gears move. You use all these different sized gears and place them in the correct order to make that happen. It's a very doable puzzle, and there's not a lot of pressure at first. You just have to figure it out. After you've done that once, though, a little later on, you enter a room where a guy is tied to a puzzle, and there's a blade swinging back and forth in front of him, and it's slowly dropping down towards him. You have to solve 4 of those puzzles, those gear puzzles, and now there is definitely a time limit. Now there's pressure. The timer on this one got intense. That guy died multiple times on my game. Some puzzles are bigger than others, of course. I've stumbled upon a gas puzzle, just appeared out of nowhere. You enter a room, the door slams shut, the room starts filling up with toxic gas. You have to race around and figure out, first, where the actual puzzle is in the room. You have to collect any pieces you might need to actually use the puzzle, and then you have to actually solve the puzzle in like 30 seconds. The first time this happened, I must have died a dozen times on this one. For this particular puzzle, you have to connect 2 points of a tube. There's a tube that's being separated by this dial, and the dial has all these different pieces. I guess that's what you call it. It's a tube puzzle. You have to spin the dials in different directions and sort of make the two connect. I don't like this particular puzzle. It's definitely something you can solve. In this instance, the time constraint is usually my biggest problem. This is definitely my kind of survival horror game. I'm definitely further than half into this game. I really like it. I'm going to beat this one. This is a well-done game. I am so glad that I found it, and I'm so glad that I popped it in. If you're a survival horror fan, this is a good one for you to take a look at. Well, that's all I have today for Saw for the PlayStation 3. Thanks for stopping by to take a look, and I'll catch you on another video.